Welcome back to Giant Freakin' Robot. Today I'm taking a look at what should have been part 2 in the beginning of a great new, original science fiction franchise. For everyone who's gotten sick of sequels, remakes and prequels, this should have been exactly what we wanted. Unfortunately, it's not enough for something just to be original. It also has to be good. If you're the kind of person who'd believe a galactic empire would be so desperately reliant on the grain produced by one tiny village that they'd be afraid to blast it to smithereens, then Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver is the movie for you.
The grain is our most powerful weapon.
Most of the movie's plot works on that sort of half-thought-out logic, and it only works if you're half watching the movie while dopamine looping on your phone. Now that I think of it, the Rebel Moon movie series may be the perfect entertainment product for the modern age. The first 35 minutes are almost entirely filled with borderline stock footage of humble villagers threshing grain and dancing in taverns.
These are people of the land.
It's as if writer-director Zack Snyder found B-roll from Weird Al's Amish Paradise video in a dusty old 90s archive and decided it was a perfect fit for his new sci-fi movie. Actually, let's try it out. It works. You could argue these scenes exist to develop our characters and the village, so that when the big battle happens we'll care about their continued existence. Except this is Rebel Moon Part 2, not Part 1. We already spent 2 hours of Rebel Moon Part 1 wandering around this village and meeting these characters. If the audience doesn't care about them by now, they never will. Besides, if character development was the goal, wouldn't it have made sense to show the characters' faces? If one day Rebel Moon director Zack Snyder comes out and admits most of this was AI generated, I won't be surprised at all. Maybe it could have gone faster if the villagers had something to use in their harvesting efforts besides pitchforks and a couple of scythes. Even the Amish have more high-tech farming instruments. Yet somehow, in a universe where these same villagers have hover carts and go hunting with laser rifles, no one has managed to invent a tractor. Eventually the bad guy from the last movie shows up again to start attacking the village he's been promising to attack since the last film. It's at this point that Rebel Moon Part 2 begins attempting to fulfill its long-telegraphed intention to become a spacefaring version of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. But Zack Snyder is not Akira Kurosawa. At one point he was a promising and talented auteur with a unique and beautiful skill for creating visually interesting battles.
Slow motion is awesome.
Those days are long gone, and the Zack Snyder work we're left with operates like a Neil Breen movie with a big Hollywood budget. If you're unaware of Neil Breen and his popularity, he's an elderly real estate agent turned independent filmmaker beloved for how impossibly bad his movies are.
Damn, we need to make this an even fight.
What makes Neil Breen really special, and, in his own way, a national treasure, is how blissfully unaware he is of the fact that people are laughing at him.
The only reason none of my films are made near or with the Hollywood system is that I physically don't live in Los Angeles.
Breen has developed a cult following on the internet, and screenings of his movies are regularly packed with fans screaming at his bumbling ineptitude.
I'll be right here.
Zack Snyder, who also has a devoted cult following, seems as unaware of how terrible he's become as Neil Breen is.
You just need a bigger TV.
Breen shows up at screenings and somehow never hears the peals of laughter directed at his unintentionally hilarious work. Similarly, Zack Snyder seems unable to detect how boring and lazy most people think he is. In a bizarre, big-budget mirroring of Neil Breen's recently released effort Cade the Tortured Crossing, every scene in Rebel Moon Part 2 looks like it was shot in front of a green screen. The frightening thing about this is that I'm pretty sure big chunks of it were shot on location, yet somehow Snyder has managed to post-process them into looking like his characters are standing in front of borrowed Shutterstock backgrounds. Nothing in Rebel Moon Part 2 makes any more sense than futuristic farmers riding around on hover sleds harvesting crops with kitchen knives while spaceships zoom overhead. At least there are battles. Not good ones, but battles do exist. Some of those battles involve spaceships. The biggest must have been designed by watching the 80s anime Star Blazers and copying the space battleship Yamato, and then removing all the cool parts of that aircraft carrier turned space cruiser before putting it in Snyder's film. The sheer amount of ineptitude behind the movie's action sequences is perhaps the most shocking thing about Rebel Moon Part 2. This is a movie made by the man who filmed 300, after all. No matter what you think of all the slow-motion copycats since then, there's no denying 300 delivers gritty and compelling battles. Rebel Moon Part 2 is incapable of matching Snyder's better work. Oh sure, Zack Snyder uses a lot of the same slow-motion tricks, but the eye-popping artistry he combined those with in past efforts is totally gone. In their place is the most badly done, obviously staged, fight choreography I've seen on screen in years. And it's a Snyder film, so it's all in slow motion. That means you'll have plenty of time to notice that Axe Blade bounced off its intended victim like it was made of rubber rather than sinking into flesh. Or that most of those punches didn't connect, it's just a stuntman slapping air. Or that every time the teeny girl with no muscles mimes punching someone, they don't so much as get rocked by the force of her hit as they do fling themselves backward into a wall. I'm not sure why the movie's space villains would help her out like that. Maybe they want her to feel good about the attempt. The movie's score is as poorly planned out as its fight choreography. 1 minute the soundtrack is going full Star Wars. The next you're in a Hobbit village dancing to an elevator music version of Sail Away. None of Snyder's choices make any sense. Also, Jimon Honsu is in this movie and is good at acting. He's wasted, but tries to create a good speech or two out of Zack Snyder's horrific writing.
No, it must be done in 3 days' time.
There's a cool robot, beautifully designed and with a penchant for wearing antlers for no discernible reason. Unlike in the first movie, where the robot stood around watching, he does do something cool in this one. Fast forward to the end of Rebel Moon Part 2 if you're watching it because you've been waiting for that. Otherwise, stream it while answering your email. If you only watch it out of the corner of your eye while doing something else, you might think it's not that bad. But it is that bad. Rebel Moon Part 2 operates on the level of the last few movies made by Mick G before Hollywood finally put a bullet in his career. Anyone remember his terrible Terminator movie? That was better than this. It's like watching a really bad Chronicles of Riddick knockoff if Vin Diesel and his photogenic muscles were replaced by a marble-mouthed toothpick in a bloody tank top. Zack Snyder has made good movies. I've long been a defender of both Watchmen and Man of Steel. The director who made those movies is long gone. Now, he's a joke without a punchline, and after this Rebel Moon debacle, I have a hard time imagining any studio investing large amounts of money with him again. That's it for now. If you're a deluded Snyder fan who wants to see this channel nuked from orbit,
You know. Morons.
I'll see you in the comments. If you're everyone else, don't forget to subscribe. Smart people like us should stick together. This has been Giant Freakin' Robot.